Justice. How you doing?
Good morning, Syx. I'm doing okay. I'm having like a weird morning. I got into a couple of internet arguments yesterday, and it just sort of like I kind of want to talk about some fat people stuff
All right, so
because I feel like it needs to happen.
here we go.
Um,
This is our Fuck the Format Friday, and this is Justin's opinion piece. Sit back and enjoy. We don't have a video, but this should get your blood going.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, so I'm gonna just talk about what happened yesterday. So I shared a meme, a post about talking about how like thin people do not experience like the same level of societal oppression as fat people do. Thin people, what the meme explicitly said was that thin people will never lose out on career opportunities, relationships, friends, social opportunities, any of these things, explicitly because of their size. This is something that is true. It's just a fact. However, it upset some people. People were not pleased with my meme, which is, So I got a message from an older man. He sent me about a page-long like essay, basically, breaking down the fact that my meme was reductive, and that his wife had experienced all of those sort of oppressions because she was skinny. I didn't respond beyond just thanks for your feedback, which led to a strange comment from this gentleman about how the first thing he ever noticed about me was my eyes and eyeglasses, which is not relevant to my point, just interesting to note.
I thought that was odd, yeah.
And just a little strange. Before that, earlier in the day, I had gotten into another sort of conversation with somebody else about fat shaming public figures, because somebody had posted a meme just about. I don't even remember what the context was. Just remember that the comment was, we shouldn't listen to a fat, overpaid white guy. But I don't necessarily understand what exactly, like, fatness has to do. Like, you can criticize somebody for being wrong about things. I do it often, without sort of criticizing their bodies, because, like, being fat is not, it's not indicative of, like, intelligence. It's not indicative of, like, work ethic. It's not indicative of, well, frankly, anything other than the size of that person's body. And I think that, like, well, this touches me personally because I'm a fat person, and like going through the world, the first thing that people notice about me and will notice about me for the rest of my life, because I don't ever plan on not being fat, is that I am fat. And that leads to like, a certain level of invisibility. It leads to sort of like a certain level of rejection in some places. And I'm just sort of a little bit tired of having to like defend, like, I'm sick at this point, I think, of having to defend that thin privilege exists, because like it's to me at least seems undeniable. And that's I don't know, Syx, that's where I'm at today. I think fat people deserve a little bit better, and I think that the start of that is acknowledging that there are things in the world that thin people have access to that fat people do not. I don't fit on roller coasters, man. I miss roller coasters. That's a thin privilege.
I'm afraid of roller coasters. I'm not afraid of fat people. So, firstly, this show is called Hypnic Jerks for a reason. Hypnic Jerks is the syndrome that you get when you're just about to fall asleep at night and your body thinks you're falling and then you wake back up. So let's think about this in a larger sort of general way, that this show is also a hypnic jerk, possibly for society or for some of you people that are sitting back and maybe lazily or just kind of dopily sleeping in the society that we live in. And hopefully this can be a little bit of a hypnic jerk to you to think about language that we're using, how words affect people. The general climate that we're in now is more about understanding and empathy and really considering about how we can progress as a cohesive, inclusive society. I'm not innocent from saying, we've talked about it, from saying stupid things in the past, from feeling now pretty fucking ignorant with some of the stuff that I've said. And, those are things that hopefully aren't going to quiet me or stifle me, but they are going to be things that promote the change and spark the conversation. Because honestly, sometimes if you're called out for being wrong, just admit it sometimes. And also probably shut your mouth a lot. Like, listen and learn a lot. And that's what we've been doing on the show with different guests. This is kind of the first day that we've, spewed our own or spit our own truth and had a pretty, honest and kind of heart-to-heart conversation with some of this stuff. But, admitting you're wrong is not a bad thing, or even just sitting and listening and, honestly being able to say, like, I don't know what to say about these sorts of things. I guess maybe, I didn't have the right words. Maybe I should just be sitting and listening. And then on a bigger, broader scale, if you don't fit into that demographic that you were speaking to, maybe you should shut your mouth. Like, I don't think a male's point of view to a woman online that they don't really know, don't understand the social circle, or don't even have a kind of discussion already with them going on. Find a woman that you identify with in your own world and see if they can spark up the conversation and help you understand a little bit more. Become allies, become real allies at the, in your gut. Just want people to do better, and be better people, and see what you can do to understand that point of view. I guess that's all I can fucking say.
No, absolutely. And I think that, like, so part of why I share a lot of, like, fat acceptance, fat awareness, fat content on my Facebook. And part of the reason that I do that is because it's an excellent venting tool, because these are feelings that I often carry just through kind of the weight of the world, for excuse the turn of phrase there. But another reason why I post a lot of this content is because I want to challenge people's sort of internalized notions. And so because I do that, one of the things that I'm very open to is answering questions. So, like, if you feel like, I'm wrong, which is your opinion and valid, but I'm right. So please ask. Ask me questions. Don't come at me and tell me that I'm, like, throwing other women under the bus because I'm acknowledging thin privilege. Ask me why. Ask me why I think this way,
yep.
And I'd be happy to let you know.
But then you're also, your little bit of admittance is, maybe even on your wording, it was a bit reductive.
Yes, so I mentioned this sort of this morning. The meme explicitly used the words like always and never, which, upon reflection, I recognize can be reductive in that, like, yes, there will always be outliers. Yes, there absolutely will be thin people who could argue that they've experienced weight-based stigma because of their thinness. However, what I would argue in response to that is anecdotal evidence. It does not speak to sort of the systemic problem that fat people face sort of overall. The anecdotal evidence that I would share in response is that, like, most, if not all, thin people who walk into a psychiatrist's office, for example, will not walk out with a referral for weight loss or bariatric surgery. They'll probably walk out with a treatment plan for their mental health condition,
yep.
Which is not a privilege that fat people have.
But again, when we were talking about this, there are extremes on both ends where mental health does become an issue. And that's sort of stuff that we've even, just chatted about and admitted, but that general broad stroke that, is kind of, being made in this discussion isn't about necessarily those extremes either, because those extremes are, there can be some mental going along with everything. And right now, I think it's also a time that we acknowledge that everybody has their own kind of, there's just a lot of things going on. So, this is a time that sometimes things might come out, and they might come out even wrong. They might not come out in the right way. We might have meant good, and they didn't hit the mark. And we need to carry on, I think, we need to try and carry on those conversations with those people that it didn't happen with, to see if we can kind of come to some sort of like common ground. And there can be a common ground with a person to say, listen, we don't agree on this issue. That's fine. Let's set this aside. But like, let's stop the name calling. Let's stop the hurtful language. Let's stop what's going on in a lot of ways, and let's have discussions. Go ahead, Justice.
Well, I hear your point, and I fully understand sort of where you're coming from. But if you took a look, sorry, back at that meme, I think, and saw that I had shared in the comment section, somebody had asked.
Dude.
Somebody had asked.
Yes. Yep.
For examples of like, somebody had asked for examples of like weight-based abuse, because people online are vitriolic towards fat people in a way that they are not towards thin people. And the example that I had shared is from the comment section of a fat activist, a fat Instagram influencer that I follow. And the photo she had shared was of herself eating a bowl of pasta. And I shared, I think, like between 15 or 20 comments that were on that Instagram page, varying greatly in levels of hate. From something as simple as saying stop eating, which if you think about for a second really is kill yourself, to more concerned trolling and like aggressive, you're killing yourself, right? I'm so glad people like you aren't expected to live very long. And these are kinds of things that like thin people don't like. There are other forms of abuse that thin people will sort of take. So the reason that I bring up this example is that like the response, the fact that like I might be a little bit more aggressive towards like thin people on my Facebook feed is in response to sort of the overwhelming amount of hate that is just like in my purview from experiencing the world, that like tone policing, right? This is sort of what it comes down to, is that like I'm allowed to be angry. I'm allowed to be angry at this. I'm allowed to be upset that the world treats me like this because of something that is, debatably outside of my control.
I'm trying to pull this up on the side of our screen, and I apologize for the viewers that it's a bit too small that you can read this, but it is on Justice's feed, and I'm definitely not interrupting you because this is the shit that we see trolls doing in a lot of different. I mean, it doesn't matter. Fucking trolls are trolls.
No, it doesn't matter. No,
and it sucks, right. But yes, when you are affected by words like this, these are discussions that I've been having, whether it's a flag in our fucking community or this sort of stuff. Hate speech is hate speech, and some of this stuff is really, really, really harsh, and it's out there, and it affects people. This affects people, and you know what? The trolls are going to be happy about this stuff. So we also have to have like some thick skin, but we need to be fighting back against some of this stuff. Like this, it's bothersome and disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no, truly.
Again, please. There's a couple of responses there. I can't. Oh, can I bring them up as pictures? But again, there.
It's frankly. Well, it's disgusting. I don't have words. I genuinely am at a loss for words for the desolate, empty feeling that like looking for those comments gave me, because like the worst part is, man, is like I genuinely believe not those comment section. That comment section comes from a place of like hate and disgust, and that's not what I'm talking about. Moving forward, like concern trolling is a thing that is discussed in sort of fat circles, and what that is the idea that I love you and I think you're hurting yourself. Your weight scares me. That's a real thing. Growing up, my family was very much like that. We just love you. We're worried about you. Your weight makes us concerned, and I understand that. But the problem, even with that, is just a lack of understanding, and it still triggers shame, right? Like, so you kind of. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going with this, but I think like what I'm trying to get to is that like even like it doesn't sort of matter how well-meaning you are when you talk to somebody about like their size, you're really just contributing to a shame culture. And like, hey, also, I'm just gonna put this one flat out. We know we're fat. Every single one of us. We know we're fat. We're intimately aware.
You're also fucking tall.
I am. Yeah. Personally, I'm 6 feet tall. That's a special treat just for me.
It is. Because they're short shaming out there. I'm like a little 5'8" guy. Yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to sort of go off on my soapbox here, but this is something that really kind of speaks to me and is something that touches me and affects me very, very deeply. Like, man, it's hard out there for a big girl. Like, I just want to feel cute and see, like, cute fat girls on TV and, like, I don't know, see happy fat girls doing stuff and not have our, like, every storyline that's ascribed to us be about weight loss or about teaching other thin women how to love themselves. Like, man, it's just different. It's just different. And, like, we're in a place now, I think, as a society where we're looking at how, like, the powers that be have manipulated the media, have manipulated, like, us, the education system, all of these things, in order to make sure that, like, the only people, like, who get to kind of feel good about themselves are, well, yeah, I'm not going to go down that road. That's just a wrong statement. My apologies. Because insecurity and like shame and body shame, that's unequivocally an issue across the board. That's not specific just to fat people. My apologies for even going down that road. But you know what? Like I said, that's where I'm at today. This is what's been on my mind. Fat people are cute, and you should be nicer to them. And that's where I'm at. Syx, how was your day?
My day? Yesterday? Oh, fuck. You know, I just think what you said at the end when you, like, quickly kind of, you know, backpedaled and apologized, you know, like, sometimes our knee-jerk reaction, our perspective just kind of just makes us want to be able to say those things too. And knowing that, you know, sometimes our perspective still isn't the one that we're fighting for. Like, we have to reposition it. I do a longer podcast or a longer talk. It's not even a podcast series called Shifting Perspectives, and it's discussions with photographers. But this, you know, the wording of this is like really, you know, it's hit home to me since I came up with the idea. That was in January, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And then I've started to do these talks, and then COVID happened, and then Black Lives Matters happened, and then like now there's people being picked up on the streets of, you know, Portland in unmarked vehicles that may or may not even be the feds, that, like, who the fuck knows? But man, it is scary. We are in a time of shifting perspectives. We are in a time that is very tumultuous, and sometimes we feel like we need to say whatever we need to say, and backpedaling is kind of okay, and being like, whoa, maybe I shouldn't have. You know,
yeah,
really kind of working on.
I love admitting I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Happy to admit I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong many times, often, frankly.
You know, and I'm gonna just, like, throw this back, because we talk to creatives generally on the show, and you know, it's been in a time of COVID, and I mentioned that other series that I'm doing, but just to kind of dovetail this a little bit into my own thinking and my own thought process that's been going on for probably about 4 years now, is regarding my photography. It's regarding the work that I've produced in the past. It's thinking about what gaze was there and how I was producing that work. And generally, when I talk about that, it was brought on by not only my marriage with Taryn, but it's brought on by me having 2 girls and having to think about, you know, I'm not just the photographer that shoots for the Drive. I've shot for 25 years, and I've been producing work that's, you know, fetish work or nude work. It's been published internationally in larger magazines. It's been, you know, on the L Word. It's been in galleries. So I've had to have those discussions, but those discussions were generally at the time that stuff was produced, which was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And the climate when I was producing those is different than the climate that is going on now. My position in life is different than it is now. And Justice, since we've been working together and talking about this, a lot more of that, you know, discussion of inclusivity of body types. So I did have a project before I left Vancouver called the 30 and 30, and it was 30 frames in 30 minutes, no makeup, no outfits. This was about going into people that I had as connections, and some were real people, some were models, and going into their house, photographing them in a this gets into like fine art kind of, in a compositionally great way and beautiful lighting or whatever, and coming up with very real nude images that are, hopefully more about just the person in their home. And that project kind of died a little bit when I came to Windsor, because the modeling world is different here. The city is a lot smaller. So, being able to have these discussions, or people being able to model nude without the fear of, even what this society is going to say to them, it kind of slowed that, which made me think a lot and a lot more. Not producing that work, being in somewhat of a vacuum, has really made me consider, why I was producing that work, why I would produce that work now, how I would produce that work now. And then having great photographers that I had the luxury of being able to teach, and they were at a school in Vancouver, a guy named Vince Hemmingson, who's been doing, quite a large project called the Tree of Life, where he's literally photographing women from the age of legal to, I think his oldest one was 88 years old. Some of them are yoga teachers, and some of them are teachers, and some of them are scientists, and some of them are models. But they're going out to a beach, and he photographs them on, roots of trees. And his work's been in the Louvre, and it's now, they're having discussions kind of around this idea of the Tree of Life and identity, and different body types, and celebrating that stuff. I still don't know where to go with some of that stuff, but I think that this is, it's a really good thing for people to talk about. It's okay, I guess, to feel uncomfortable with stuff I've produced, and maybe it's and by uncomfortable, it isn't like a shame-based thing, but, just kind of wondering how to be more effective, positive, progressive, forward-thinking, inclusive, and I think maybe at this point it isn't about me talking about my perspective. It's time to kind of be quiet and do for others as much as I can do, I guess. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out, my fine art photography after 25 some years, and it's totally in a different place. Like, the world is really different. So these
Absolutely.
discussions that are either, everything that you're talking about, or creatively what other people are talking about, there's a lot of commonalities with what's going on. And I think having quiet moments and reevaluating are some pretty important things for us.
I totally agree. And I think just touching on sort of your point about how things are changing and these conversations are opening things up, and the perspectives are different, like, that's so true. In the comment thread on that post from yesterday, it sort of wrapped up with a conversation with an older friend of mine, where she asked, do I think things will change? And I do, and because they are, because the example that I had chosen to use was the example of Lizzo, who is obviously a phenomenal musician. She's up there doing 2-hour shows and playing the flute, and she looks
Where
like
did that
me.
flute come from?
And she, like, 5 years ago, even 5 years ago, Syx, like, a woman that size doing, like, worshipped the way that she is, I don't think we would have seen it. And on that note, just a very, very quick sidebar, Frankie Muniz wants to be her purse, and that, to me, true equality.
Wouldn't that be a merce?
No.
A man purse? And there's our comic relief. Great segue, hey?
Absolutely. Beautiful.
All right. So rat counts up to 9.
What do you do with the bodies?
Oh, fuck. We make stew. No. Should I say this? We have some neighbors to the alleyway of us that have quite an overgrowth of bushes and shrubs and stuff, and I just kind of toss them in there, and I hope I hope they don't make their way back when the cats are like, "Oh, this was my toy," and then bring it back. But
no, all you're doing is creating basically a pet cemetery for rats. So keep your eye on that rat count.
Yeah, I wonder if the amount of bones that are then found, like is it like ravens? If you hang a raven upside down, a dead raven, ravens and blackbirds won't be like around you at all because they're afraid of death, their own death.
So I've applied that logic to the horrendous bugs that sometimes make their way into my home. I'm pro bug, baby. Like, if you want to be out there, by all means, you got the whole world. Don't trespass, because it stands your ground against bugs. And so sometimes I like to leave the corpses around because it's a threat to the other bugs. But
yeah,
I don't think bugs think the same way that the crows do.
No, I don't think that's a thing at all.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't help.
No.
There's just bug corpses in my house.
Yeah. Yeah. So another thing. Speaking of corpses, Little Shop of Horrors, great movie.
Okay. Yeah.
Taryn had an interaction on a plant forum the other day, and it reminded us of us watching Little Shop of Horrors with the girls. Do you know the movie Little Shop of Horrors?
Singing Venus Flytrap? Oh, yes.
Singing Venus Flytrap. Well, the ending that kind of everybody knows is that, basically, they killed Audrey to the large Venus Flytrap, and then they live happily ever after. But the real ending is that the Venus Flytraps begin to take over the world, and they take over, and there's world destruction. So, on that note of just a little bit of a rabbit hole, if you're interested and people are kind of out there and looking for some entertainment this weekend, man, search that out. Look for the original or the, I guess it was the first ending that they had showed kind of their control groups, and then it got re-released in 2012, I believe, on a DVD. So, it's kind of out there, but the alternate ending, the director's cut ending, lots of corpses, lots of human corpses. And maybe that's just what's going to happen to us with this pandemic is a large Venus flytrap is probably going to realize that we taste better with coronavirus and chomp, chomp, chomp. And that's, the world is going to just be done, and we're going to be a bunch of Audrey 2s.
Dude, I think you just hit the nail on the head of the conspiracy, that coronavirus is just, it's the spice of life.
The spice of life.
We're being seasoned for the plants for later consumption. So before we head off here, Syx, we got a very nice message from Bronwyn. So thank you so much for watching. And what she said was that we need to elevate otherness to a higher visibility in our culture. Visibility brings hope, and hope breeds health, mental and physical. Bullying and shaming does not and will not, which I think is, as always, Bronwyn, succinct, apt, and beautifully put. So thank you so much for that. And actually, Syx, why don't we, you and I, before we leave, talk about what we do every day to stay optimistic? You go first.
Well, lately, I probably have fallen off the routine, I feel, a little bit. Things have been a little bit of a roller coaster in and around my house. I think it's just, there's just a lot of stuff happening. But generally there were three things. I'm going to tell you that specifically last night what Taryn and I did was actually paid for a live, quote unquote, a live streamed concert of Nick Cave. And we were essentially in a virtual show being able to chat with our friends in Toronto. And I'm seeing posts from people in Vancouver because it's essentially North America. It's all the same time that it's streamed. And it was getting to be around friends, getting to reach out and be like, hey, I'm passing you the virtual joint. I hope that, hope you're having a good time at the show. So I guess, yesterday, reaching out to friends, I mean, this is stuff that we try and do, thanking people, having some gratitude. We in this household have been kind of trying to, I guess, focus a little bit more on some of the gratitude that's going around even the house, because sometimes just starting at your house is an easy way to change that perspective of everything that's going on during your day. So what we're looking forward to this weekend is a family van trip We are on a ghost road trip. We're going to go to some ghost towns around Ontario here, spend a day in the van, and probably in a whole bunch of towns where there's nobody, and experience some of our history. So we'll be kind of touring around a little bit, and we will also be driving through kind of the Buxton area. So, the idea is, again, to chat with the kids a little bit about Uncle Tom's Cabin, Emancipation, the stuff that's kind of coming up, and why Buxton was important in this area. So, a little bit of fun teaching, a little bit of experiencing some ghost towns in this area. I did it a bit when I was in Vancouver. So I hung out with some friends last night, and I'm looking forward to doing some things with my family this weekend. So that's how I'm staying positive.
That's super beautiful. The last couple of weeks, I've been watching TV. I'm watching a cartoon series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, because it's become mimetic again, and it's also just phenomenal. With my roommate, which is how I've been ending the days lately, and that's a beautiful way to sort of end my day. And looking forward to tonight, because tonight I'm playing a board game digitally with a bunch of my friends, which is genuinely my favorite thing to do. So it's honestly... Sorry?
Hanging out with friends. Yeah.
That's it. That's all I want. I don't want anything else. Nothing. Just that. So thank you, Syx, for letting me sort of soapbox this morning. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you to everybody who tuned in to listen to me soapbox this morning. And I think that's sort of it for us today. Yeah.
Thank all our friends, and hopefully you guys will join us again next week.
Monday?
9:30 Monday. I think we'll be around. All right.
See ya.
See ya.